Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cryption and I hope you are well. Do you remember those demon doors from Fable 1 where you could walk up to them and then you'd interact with it and then it'd tell you something to do and then it'd only unlock if you did it? But it was often in times of like riddles and stuff like that, so you never sometimes knew initially what you had to do without either looking it up or playing around with some stuff. So they also had this cool animation on the doors and stuff like that. Now, I don't have the ability at the moment in order to create cool animations like that on the door, but I do think we can do it with some like skeletal mesh knights and stuff like that. Another game that also did it was Destroy All Humans, where you had the Arc Voodoo landing zones and they give you some very comical thing to do, and then they'd open up and give you a landing zone. We're going to follow the more door entry, and they were always very comical, and the tasks that you had to do sometimes very questionable. So in today's tutorial, we're going to look at setting up a replicant of the demon door from Fable, mixed with some comical aspects of Destroy All Humans built into it. So let's get started. So I've gone and imported some more asset packs, and I'm thinking if you walk all the way up this hill and you follow this long brick over here, you'll see this door here, which from a distance just looks pretty cool if I say so myself. But you'll come up and then you'll see here, ignore the animations at the moment, we'll get to that in a tick, and then we can give them like spears and weapons and stuff and make them really stand there. But then we can make it so you walk up and you interact with it, then it gives you some vague task to do that we can add voiceover and stuff for. And then only upon completing it, then you unlock this door and the statues will move out the way or do whatever they need to do. So that's the plan, and we're going to make it really generic. I'm going to build the vast majority of mine using a quest system because I think it's just going to be a lot easier to build this type of logic into it. If you don't have a quest system, then you can entirely build this with blueprints, and I will explain to you as and when we get there how you will do it in a blueprint, for example. But the quest system I'm going to be using as per normal is the narrative quest and dialogue system, which has recently been renamed to Narrative Tales. So as per normal, we need some cool animations for these guys to move around. So what I've gone and done is got us some custom animation for door blockers. So we've only got a couple because some of them were like beyond broken for some reason. It just really didn't want to play ball with the mocap soon. But we have opening and closing if you ever need it to close and open, for instance. So we've got like a spear close. So this guy, if you imagine him holding a spear, will be stood up right next to him. And then as he closes it, the gates are locked. And that's pretty much the one these guys are doing here. And then we've got loads of different ones. So we've got an alternative one, which is basically just flipped around to the other side. You don't really need it because I found a cool technique to mirror animations, which we'll get onto later. And then we've just got a bunch of other ones here. So I'll put a couple of them in the description for you. And then the rest will be on my Patreon as per normal, which all goes towards supporting me. So I thank you. So let's move to a new map because starting and stopping this here is going to take a toll on us quite a bit. So I'm actually just going to come and select all of these guards and the door. So if I press H, you can see it's gone. And we'll just copy this. And I'll move it into a new demo map. So just a basic one. And then I'll paste it in, and then I will just make sure to move it over to 000 so we can actually use it like so. There we go. So it'll do for at least this testing, and I'll just save this in my dev maps folder. So you'll see me refer to these as Pantheon gates. For my game's lore, that's what they're going to be called, not demon doors. Pantheon gates. You can obviously call yours whatever you want at all. And if I play it now, in theory we should... Oh, they're playing the animation straight away. But there you go, you saw the animation, and it did indeed look pretty cool. There you go, Pantheon gates. And I have purposely made them really large and a bit, if they came alive, you'd be a bit worried. So let's start by just setting up this whole door system here. So we've got tons of tutorials on doors on my channel alone, really. But it's going to be a bit different because this is going to be a completely quest-driven one that gives you a quest hidden at least when you try to interact with it. In the future, I may end up merging it with the previous door tutorials, which, if you've not seen, those tutorials are pretty good for transporting you around. So let's set up a basic blueprint. So I'm just going to come into my blueprints folder, And I'm going to go into my MISC doors. And I'll just create a new folder inside here called Pantheon Gates, but you can of course call yours Demon Doors, Doors, whatever you want. And inside here I'll create a new blueprint class, type of actor, and I will call it BPA underscore Pantheon Gate, and I'll open it up. So I will come and add my static mesh to my door. If you have a better door, I do advise it. Mine's actually just a solid static mesh that I can't open the door with, but I'm thinking just with a nice fade to black, it will be able to hide that. So I'll get the static mesh and I'll just come and add it inside here, like so. There we are. And then I can also come and get the two guards here, because that's what I want in mine. So I'll just grab their skeletal mesh and I will come and add them inside the default scene route. And I will do the same for the other one, which I believe he's the exact same one. And then what I want to do is put them in the same position in here that they are in here. But as you can see, they're different. But a nice quick fix for this, what you can do, is select both your guards and attach them to the door, so they're children of it. And what you'll notice is their world position has now become relative, because they're relative to the door. So if we copy that location and go back to here and paste it on him, he will move into the correct position, as you can see. And I'll do the same for this guy. There. And you'll notice that my original ones were all grey and, sized differently as well. So we'll just fix the scaling on both of these. But for the texture-wise, what I did is create my own custom Cinti texture, and it's super easy to do. You just find the texture here and export it, and all I've done is created a custom one, which has just replaced all of the purple, the blue, the brown, the skin tone with stone, really. And now I can apply it to both of these. Tick and tick, and you'll see they've all gone stone-like. I am going to remove the minus from here though, and you might be wondering why, but Unreal tends to actually crash if you use minus scales, at least that I've seen in the past. Hopefully they fixed it, but when we mirror the animations it won't be a problem anyway. So we've got our two guys there, so let's give them a nice idle pose, because at the moment, stood out arms wide, they're going to look a bit weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my animations, and if you've downloaded the free ones, you can use them. If you haven't, then use any animation you want. You could even position it using a control rig if you really want to. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select whichever animation this is. So this one I want for this door is this spear open here. And you'll see it starts off closed, and then it opens up like that. But if you think about it, we actually need two idle states. We need an idle state when they're closed, so it would look like that. Then we need an idle state when they're open, like that, because then they're open. But then we need the actual animation playing to move it. And the easiest way to do it is to open the animation, go to the beginning, then just go to Create Asset, Create Animation, Current Pose. Don't choose current pose asset, that will give you a pose asset. I don't fully know what they're for yet, but I will learn Monday. But in this case, we want animation current pose. If we do current animation, we'll get the full animation. Current pose will give us a singular frame. And now we can come back to the animations, and inside wherever you're going to store them, in my case here, I will just name it spear open underscore closed idle. And as you can see, if we play the animation, it does nothing. That's it, it's a single frame, which is perfect. And then what we can do is tell it to only play it once, so it plays the animation, freezes, so it's also performant. What I'm going to do is just come and open the spear open again, go to the very end where he's holding the spear, and you'll just do the exact same thing. Create asset, create animation, current pose, back into the place where we actually need to be. Spear open underscore open idle, and we can save it. There we go. And now with all that done, we can successfully come back to our Pantheon Gate. I'll select these two guards, and we will attach the basic animation asset of spear idle closed, like that. And you can see he's holding something down, nothing at the moment, but it's blocking it off. But what you may notice is this guy here is holding it the wrong way. Now, like I said, you can just come in and reverse his scale. If that works, I do advise you try it, building it if you are going that route. It may work for you and it's a bit easier. However, in the past when I was building the Legend of Link game, Unreal just kept crashing and not building because it had a negative scale and it didn't like it. But that was like a 5.1, 5.2 thing, so that could have been fixed. But what we can do is we can mirror the animations. And it's really easy to do. It's a lot easier than I thought it would be. So I'm going to come into where my animations are here that want to be mirrored. And I'm going to right click animation and I'm going to choose mirror data table here. And it'll ask for a skeleton. So I'll just assign my polygon fantasy, but you assign whatever skeleton you need. There you go, I've got my knight and I'll click accept. And I'll just call this MDT for mirror data table. And I'm just going to call it polygon knights because it's not really animation specific, to be honest. And I'll open it up. And you'll see Unreal is very clever and it has automatically populated all of the row names with all of your bones. So every single one. But what you'll notice is it understands what most people do when they want to reverse an animation. And it's already flipped the odd ones around here. So as you can see, the left clavicle has been mirrored to the right clavicle. So it flips the animation around. And it's done the same with the shoulder, the elbow, and the hand as well. It hasn't done it with the feet, I don't think, has it? Yes, it has done it with the legs as well. It basically reverses everything. So it is really that clever. And that's kind of all you need to do, which is really cool for the setup. The only other thing you need to do is set up an animation blueprint that tells these guys to actually use the mirror data table. But that's fine, because we want one anyway. So I'm going to come into here, where my animations are. I'll right click animation blueprint and I'll search for my skeleton again and I'll just call this AB underscore Pantheon Gates Gate Guards, and of course call yours whatever you want, Demon Door Guards, Demon Door, whatever you need. So in here we'll basically attach the animations that we want to play. So in my case I want the spear open idle and I'll grab the spear closed idle for later. And then all we do is we drag off of the animation and choose mirror, type mirror, and it will automatically find your mirror data table look, and we can plug it in. So if I uncheck mirror and click compile, you'll see his left hand is sticking out. If I tick mirror and click compile, his right hand's sticking out. How cool is that? And it just reverses the entire thing. And of course you can absolutely drive this from a boolean, which is what we're going to do. So we'll just add a boolean of mirror animation. And then what I'm also going to do while I'm here is just add a new boolean called isOpen. And then I can drag this idle over a little bit, drag off and do blend pose by bool. And then if it's open, it plays the open one. If it's closed, then it plays the closed one, like so. The active value we'll drag the isOpen into. And then we'll make sure it plugs into our mirror, so no matter what it does, if we're mirroring, we're mirroring. And we can hit compile like so. So you'll see at the moment it's closed, so his arm is out to the side. I believe we've got an animation preview editor here, so as we change this, you'll see he'll flip round, which is cool. But if I open it, you'll see he will do the pose to flip open. We'll of course add in the proper animation in between that. But you'll see, no matter what we do, he's like really badly walking there. But he flips around and holds it however he needs to, which is perfect. The only other thing I'll do is I'll just make sure to drag this across a little bit and I will add a default slot into here. This allows us to play montages and overrides everything to the left of it. So if all of this comes in and tries to play one of these, it will play the default slot if it's available, if we're playing a montage, and then it will mirror it as well, which gives us a double benefit of it. Now I hit compile and save and go back to the Pantheon Gate. I'll just click these chaps and select an animation blueprint of Pantheon Gate Guards, or whatever one you've used, and click compile. So you can see by default they're all off to the side. So what we need to do is actually populate this isOpen and mirror animation here. So on the event graph, we do have the update animation, which is almost like a tick, but more physics-based, I believe. This one we don't need to use for the mirroring, because the mirroring we only need to know from the very start. So what I'm going to do is just come up here and do begin play. Event blueprint begin play. There we go. We'll try to get the pawn owner. And then all I'm going to do is just use tags, actor tags, because that's kind of what they're for, tagging things really simply like that. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to drag off of this and do get tags. And then I'm going to say if it contains mirror animations, then we will set the mirror animation just from the very start like that. Now, I'm not 100% sure at the moment if try get pawn owner is going to work on something that's not a pawn, but we'll see. If it doesn't, we'll find another way to do it. But then all I'm going to do is take this and put it on this guy here. We could, of course, make these two into individual blueprints, but I figured if we keep it all together, it's a lot easier than linking it all around. So if we hit compile and save, and let's jump back into our game and just see if that is initially working. I'll delete the two guards, and I'll come back to our blueprint. I'll press Ctrl B. I'll click the door, right-click, replace selected actors with Pantheon Gate, like so. There we go. And I just quickly tested it. I was absolutely right. It didn't work. Use get owning component if you're doing it this way, where you have the components with animation blueprints in. If you have them as set actors in the world, use get owning actor here. If they're separate blueprints or pawns, you can just use try get pawn owner. But get owning component with get component tags works perfectly fine. So you'll see if I play it now, the guards are successfully kind of holding hands, but we'll move them in a little bit. But there we go. So they're now in locked positions, which is cool. So next we need to actually tell them when the gates are open. Now we could technically use update animation to do this. However, this is going to be running fairly regularly to check has the door opened yet. You could play the entire game without ever opening it. So having this run constantly seems a bit flawed and probably a lot of hits that we don't technically need, whilst little, still quite a lot. So what I'm going to do instead is actually do it the other way, which you don't see often because normally you want animations checking fairly regularly. And all I'm going to do is simply tell our blueprint to tell the animation that it's finished. So I'm going to come back to our Pantheon Gate, or your door, and all I'm going to do is delete these functions, and I'm going to add a new custom event, and I'm just going to call it set door open. And I'll just copy it below and add another one called set door closed, just in case you ever want to be able to close it. And then for set door open, all I'm going to do is take the knight here, I'm going to get its anim instance, and then from here, all I'm going to do is cast to our AB Pantheon Gate. And now, I know normally we go against casting, but in this case, if this door is in memory, the guards are in memory, and their animation graphs are in memory. It's all in memory anyway, so you're completely safe to cast there without any huge performance hits. So we don't need to make an interface for it just this time. So I'm just going to drag off here and do set is open, and I can tick it there. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing, just duplicated again. But instead of this guy, I'm just going to simply drag the second one in like so. Then we can do this again for the closed, but just to make it a bit neater, all I'm actually going to do is just take all of this and move it to a function instead, collapse the function, and I'll call it toggle door states. And then inside this function, I'm simply going to pass in a boolean to it of an input called is door open. And then instead of having to recast all of these on close, all I'm going to simply do is drag off of this and do get door open, which is a shorthand to go and get this boolean here. And we'll paste it in over there. And now, on here, when we set door open, we can just toggle door. When we set door closed, we can just simply untoggle it like so. And with that, we can easily just test it by coming selecting this event and ticking call in editor on both of them. And now this just allows us to test it in the actual world. So if I play it, it's closed. If I F8 and click on the door, you can see we've got buttons. Set door open, set door closed. Set door open, set door closed. There you go. It's kind of working. Jankily, but it is working at least. So let's jump back to our Pantheon Gates and actually play the real animations that we want. So instead of just toggling these straight away, I'm going to move them across, because that's for when we're ready to actually set it. Instead, I'm going to drag the knight in, I'm going to call play montage, and I'm going to connect it up. For the montage to play, I'm going to promote it to a variable called opening montage. And this allows us to change, depending on the door, what animation plays. And I'll just make sure it's visible. But for a small performance boost, I'm actually going to change this anim montage to a soft object reference instead. And this allows us to still pick the montages, but it means it's not always loaded in memory, because we don't need it loaded in memory when the game first starts. We only want it loaded in memory when we're ready to. So all I'm going to do is drag this opening montage in. I will async load asset, then I will come down here and resolve it, and now we can simply drag this animation into the montage like so. So when we call set door open, it should successfully tell the knight to play the opening animation. And then when it's completed, we should be able to plug in the toggle door states to tell it it's open. So let's just give this a quick try and see if this works. And now if we come back to our animations, so wherever we put them, we can convert all these to montages that we need. So I'll select these initial ones, the ones that will actually animate. The idle ones, they don't need to be montages. I will right click, create anim montage, and it will create one for each individual one. Then I'll come to my blueprint, I'll click class defaults, and I'll just set an opening montage of spear open montage. There we go. And we'll hit compile and save. Now if I play the game and press F8, you should see, and click on the door, you should see when we click set door open, they play the animation, then remain idle. Oh. So he stretched back a little bit, but he did successfully play it, which is cool. So we need to figure out why he decided that a good reach around was allowed again. Clearly he missed his partner. Let's try that again and just see what happens. Does he do it again? Yes, okay. So what I think's happening is when we come in here and we set the door state on completed, I think at that moment it's completed, it's setting the state to revert it back, but then coming back to itself. So there's like code in here, I guess, if you wish, from when the montage is finished. So what I'm actually going to do instead, just to make it a bit easier, let's see if we can move it to on blend out. So when it's attempting to blend the animation out because it's finished, is that a better time to do it? If not, we'll add a notifier and do it. Click set door open. Oh, we tried to. Okay, so the notifier is definitely going to be better and cleaner, I think. But what I'm going to do instead is use a montage notifier. So I'm just going to come to my montage here. So I'll do the spear open montage. And then right pretty much anywhere where it started opening. So I'll do it just roughly in the middle. On the notifies one line, I will right click, add notify, montage notify. And I will just click on it and give it a name under notify of set open door state. Something like that. Anything really. Any text. And I'll save that, set the name there, and it will update it there. And now back on our blueprint, what we will do is on notify begin, we can successfully connect it to that. But first, let's drag off of notify name and do switch. And switch is basically like a fancy branch, except you can specify the values. So we'll untick has default pin, add a pin name, and paste in our value. So all it's saying is when on notify begin is called, it will have a notify name. If it's open door state, call open door state. We'll hit compile and save. Now if we try it, his hand should not snap back. So he opens, all good, and then he still tries to freeze a little. Okay, so even better way of doing it. Just set the blend time to 0 instead of 0.1 in your animation blueprint. I'm still going to keep the notifier because I believe that is a good way of doing it, because we can also do other stuff in here. But what that now means is his hand does indeed not snap back anymore because there's no blending on it. So see, he turns around and that's it. He's frozen. Now we haven't done this guard yet, so let's go and sort him out. So here is our code where we load the animation in memory, and we want to keep that part. But we need to play this part on 2 different characters. And this can't be a function, unfortunately, because it's a latent node, meaning it has to wait and delay itself. So all I'm going to do is come and copy this part, and I'm going to paste it down here, and I'm going to create a new event for it. So add custom event, and I'll call it play guard anim. Then all I'm going to do is plug in the skeletal mesh to it there, like so. And now what this means is when we come over here, we can not do any of this anymore, and we simply call play guard anim like so. And then we'll plug it in just like that. We'll plug the guard in, so add him into it like so. And then the only other thing I'm going to do is plug the montage into it as well, so we actually can pass in the montage, which will help for the closing part. And then we can just copy this over to here. Sorry if you can hear my dog snoring, she's having great sleep apparently. We'll plug this in over to here, I just pressed R there to add that, and we'll add the knight, just like so. Compile and save. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if we play it, you should see they should successfully both move their arms and then stand frozen. How cool is that? So we could do with some sounds in it. Now, unfortunately, I cannot distribute these sounds because they are licensed sounds that I bought. I got them years ago as part of this asset pack here. It's constantly getting updated with the new sounds, which is pretty epic. It's not sponsored or anything, and honestly, I can't tell you how much it costs. It's not being moved to Fab yet. Come on, devs, you need to move it to Fab. But yeah, that's the pack I use, and I've used it before in many places. It's a good pack. The sounds we've got is just stone moving. Yeah, and I've roughly timed it with the animations. So what I'm going to do is select both of these, and I'm just going to create a single queue, because then that gives us a randomized node, so it'll play either one of them. And then here's something cool you can do. We're going to go to our montage here, and then right when we want it to start playing the sound, so about here, I'm going to add a new notify of play sound, like so. And then we can tell it, oh, it's already selected it, but you can select your queue like that, which means now as we play it, it roughly plays in time. I'm going to try and tune it a bit better. It's not a great interface, but it is nice to have it all self-contained. There we go. If you get some longer sounds, you can actually make it work really well. But now if we play it, we'll also have sounds. So if I click on the door, click open. How cool is that? That's looking really nice now. So I do feel they need some weapons or just some spears just to really add to it, because it's looking a bit flaky at the moment, that they're just holding nothing. So I'm going to come back to our blueprint here, and in our viewport, I'm going to select the guy and open their skeletal mesh. And in here, you may already have one, you may not, but we need to see if you've got anything in their hand for a socket, something they can hold. So I'm going to scroll down and look for their hand R. So we've got no sockets where they hold weapons, but that's completely okay. So all I'm going to do is right click, add socket, and I'll just keep it as hand R socket, and I'll also do the same for the left hand, like so, because that's where we can put it in. And if you want to test it to make sure it's in the right position, which is probably going to be a good idea, we can right click the hand socket, add preview asset, and for me, I'm just going to search for spear. There, so we've got a spear, and you can see it's roughly working, but if we go to the preview scene, we can actually add a preview controller of a specific pose. So we'll pick reference pose. We'll use specific animation, and if we go and find our spear closed idle, we can actually test it now. So I will come and add this preview mesh to the left hand, like so. And then for me, you can see the spear's root point is very, very far away from where I need it. So all I'm going to do is just make sure I move this into his hand so it looks properly. It doesn't look a bit out of place, like so. Then I'm just going to drag it down so it looks correct. And we need to sort the rotations out. That's something else we'll have to do, so just press E. And you could, of course, change the rotations on your actual mesh. For me, I don't mind just doing it like so. So in theory, if he plays a specific animation, so if we go and get the spear open, the spear successfully moves with it like so. What I might do is just stop it at the very end, if I can. And then I'm going to move it into position here, so that, and see if it works okay in the animation as well. Because let's face it, if you've got some demon doors, you want it pretty much level, don't you, when it's there. There, so it's nice and stable with him there. And if we play the animation now, you see it's all there, it comes around and he holds it in. So let's see how that one works. So after a little bit tweaking, I pretty much just did the same thing for the other hand there. So if we save that now on that character, that should apply to all of the knights because they're using the same skeletal mesh, thankfully. And then back on our Pantheon gate, we can now assign these some weapons to hold. I'm just going to come to my content drawer and find some spears to use. And then I will simply come to the default scene route, add it, and I will add the static mesh like that. So you can see it's there. This one's got a nice spear on it, look. So I'll actually add 2 of these in, just like so. And then I'll child it to each one. And then you will see all I have to do is come and set the socket here. And if I search for the right socket, so that's gone to the wrong one, that'll be the right one for him. I'll set everything back to 0. That's gone to him. And on this one, I will do the exact same thing, but it'll be the left hand for this guy. Set everything back to 0. There. So it'll look a bit weird in the editor there while he's holding it. However, if we jump into the game and try it, you will see they are both holding spears. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? If I come and tell them to open, the spears will successfully move of them. How cool is that? So we absolutely need to work on the rotations a little bit because you haven't really got much room to open it to get in, but that's okay. So let's go back to our Pantheon Gate. I'm just going to apply the stone material to both of these because let's face it, they probably want to be grayscale and they have gone massively wrong. So I will go in and fix those later. But I'm just going to time-lapse now, fixing the spear's rotations just a little bit, just so it looks a little bit nicer. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. After an Unreal crash, if I play it now, you will see that the door spears are in much nicer locations. So let's just go and work on the closing part, just in case you want the ability to close it. So that should be simple enough if we jump back to our BP Pantheon Gate here. So let's go and add a closing montage variable. So maybe if you have a door that says you must have positive karma, but then you lose positive karma, the doors close when you try to get near them. Something like that. So in our play guard anim, I'm going to add a new one to the switch of close door state. And if it's closed door state, it'll do the exact same thing, but just tell it to close, like so. Then we're going to copy all the code from set door open down here. Paste it here, but we're going to change a bunch of it. So we'll have a closing montage instead. And then in the next tutorial, when we actually start completing this, we'll probably make these a bit nicer. And then now, if we go and find our animation that we want to actually control the closing, so if we've got a spear close, we do have a spear close, I can convert this to a montage. So I can go to the montage. And then roughly where it needs to start it, I'm going to right click, add notify, montage notify. We'll make sure we come and get the correct name, otherwise it won't work. So we want the closed door state. On this montage, we will add it in here. And then finally, I'll just get the same sound. So when he starts moving, about there, it's about the same place really. I'll add a new notify track under it, just so we can put it next to it. I'll play a sound, and the sound we want is going to be our stone, dragging stone sound like so. And then if we go back to our BP Pantheon Gate or your door, on closing montage, we can add the close one. And let's give it a try. We should now successfully be able to open and close the doors. Open. Cool. Close. There we go. Okay, so that is looking really, really cool. Now this tutorial has got quite long, so I'm not going to put out the part for actual quests and dialogue at the moment. I have that already, so that will be available on my Patreon, probably at the time where this video goes up. Otherwise it will be live in a couple of weeks. So please go and support if you want to see that video early. If you need any assistance, please let me know. These animations will be available when this video goes live. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. In the next tutorial, we will crack on doing the final part where we add the talking, the dialogue, the quests and stuff like that. So thank you for watching. My name is Cryption and I will see you next time.